Hey, good morning, everybody. This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley. Welcome back to Steelers Almighty, man. I appreciate everybody being in here, getting up with us this morning. We got a good show for you guys today, so we'll get into that. Basically, we're going to talk about first TJ Watt. He ranked as the second best edge in the National Football League. We'll discuss some of that. The Malibu Crew, they seem to love Aaron Rodgers and what he is going to bring to the table. We'll discuss that. And then three camp casualties that I have earmarked that could possibly be dismissed or cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll go through all that and more today. So appreciate everybody being in here. Thank the members for showing up. As always, again, my main man, Mr. Vaughn, how you doing, sir? We appreciate you showing up. Then our man Luke Cage is always in the house. What's going on, my man? Again, if you want to help support the channel and want to get your comment, question, or rant up on the screen, you know how to do that. Super chats are wide open. You can also help and support the channel if you become a member. Members always get their comments, questions, and rants up on the screen, so you know how to do that as well. We appreciate everybody. Again, go to Steelers Almighty Shop. The merch is out there. Lots of different stuff coming out each and every day, so make sure you guys pick up your stuff there. Other than that, people, we appreciate you being in here. Let's get to it this morning. So ESPN came out with their rankings, and their player rankings, I should say, and from executives. I mean, you don't really know exactly who is coming up with the rankings. They tell you executives, coaches, yada yada yada. It's always anonymous. For all we know, it's Dan Orlovsky and Stephen A. Smith came up with this list. Who knows? But either way, doesn't matter. They come up with the list. They've done edge rushers. And just like they did defensive linemen before with Cam Hayward at number 10, which I thought was a travesty, but whatever. And this year, they've come up with the edge. And for the second year in a row, TJ Watt comes in at number 2. And if we're all being honest, that's probably about right based on last year, and especially the way that last year ended, because – and I understand that TJ got hurt, but basically, I mean, the last 4 games, it just wasn't good. I mean, what do you have? Like 7 tackles, no sacks. There were 2 games that he wasn't even a factor in, that you're just like, is he even out there playing? And I get it. He was hurt. But y'all know my philosophy. Being hurt and playing doesn't mean that you can play bad. Again, that's an old from my father, his days of coaching high school football. That's just an old adage that I've always lived by. Playing hurt doesn't equal playing bad. It may not be your best, but I don't need your worst. Because if I'm going to get your worst, I need to get somebody else out there. That's just my philosophy. So, but he's ranked number 2. We'll go down the list here. Let's see. Jared Verse was at number 10, rookie year. I mean, he's going to be the next, in my opinion, the next great one. I mean, he was a rookie last year. His stats don't stand out too much, but if you just watch football and you watch the Rams play, Jared Verse was a problem. Absolute problem. Matter of fact, that entire defensive line for the Rams, even without Aaron Donald, was a problem. An absolute problem. Danielle Hunter from the Texans is at number 9. Basically, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., both of them from the Texans, they were number 9 and number 8. I mean, Danielle Hunter's a little older, but he still gets after the quarterback, man. And Will Anderson, young guy, gets after the quarterback. To have those 2 guys as your bookends, I mean, you're doing something. I mean, you are absolutely doing something. Aiden Hutchinson at number 7 probably would be higher had he not gotten hurt. And that was an ugly, ugly break that he had in Dallas. And again, he broke his leg in a game that Detroit was blowing out the Cowboys. I mean, they were just beating their brains in. And he got hurt. I want to say it was like the end of the third quarter or something, maybe even into the fourth quarter, because I think some Lions fans were questioning why he was still out there. Because again, that game was long over. But I mean, it's football, man. I mean, guys are going to get hurt. You can't predict it because if you could, you would. But either way, he's at number 7. Trey Hendrickson at number 6 for the Bengals. For how long? I don't know. I feel like that the Bengals eventually are going to pay Trey Hendrickson. I know we laugh at them for being cheap, and they have been, and putting him through this because he wanted a new contract last year, and they didn't give it to him, and basically gave him assurances like, hey, if you come out and have the same kind of year this year as you did last year, we'll pay you. Well, then he led the league in sacks, and they didn't pay him. So who knows what will happen? I feel like the Bengals are just posturing because they can't win. I mean, they're not going to win. If Trey Hendrickson is not on their team, they're going to be just as bad as their defense may be just as bad anyway, no matter what. But it's definitely going to be worse. I mean, absolutely worse without him. So, but we know how good Trey Hendrickson is. We've seen what he can do to an offense. We know firsthand. Then we got Nick Bosa, at number 5. A little bit of a comeback. Nick Bosa was under, y'all know Steelers almighty philosophy. Year before, you get paid, you have a great year, boom, you get paid, you kind of take a couple of years or a year off. He had a couple of down years, but then bounced back last year, Nick Bosa. Number 4, Max Crosby. He just plays for a bad franchise. That's all. He just plays for the Raiders are bad. And maybe they'll be a little bit better. They got better quarterback play with Geno Smith. We'll see. But I love Max Crosby. I mean, that motor of Max Crosby, it rivals TJ Watt's motor. It absolutely rivals his motor. Micah Parsons at number 3. Yeah, I mean, Micah Parsons does it. He doesn't even play in full time. He probably should. They should probably go to a 4-3 alignment and just have him play outside linebacker because he's not a good line. When you put him in the 4-3 and you run the football at him, he's not. He was a little better last year, but he's not a factor in the run game. He's just not. That's not what he does from that position anymore. TJ Watt at number 2, Myles Garrett at number 1. And so I don't have that much of a problem. With TJ being at number 2. And I know as Steeler fans, not only are we conditioned to not like Myles Garrett, because again, he does play for the Browns, and we know the Browns are just the definition. I like to steal words from the young crowd from time to time. A poverty franchise. The Browns are a poverty franchise. They are so bad. And I always say the same thing. I'm sure you all seen when we get the trolls in the little town halls that we do. Browns fans will come in, and I say the same thing over and over again because why be original? If you're 35 years old, better yet, if you're 40 years old and you're a Browns fan, you haven't seen your team be good more than 4 times in your life. 4 times have you seen your football team be good. Whew, that has to hurt. And that's why I always say it, because I know it hurts. Hey, call me an asshole if you want to. I can live with that. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. But, yeah, TJ at number 2, I have no beef. I have no beef because, look, man, we've seen Myles Garrett play football. Now, we can like Myles Garrett or TJ Watt more. And even if you think TJ Watt's better, I'm not going to argue with you about that. But it's not like Myles Garrett isn't good, And that's the thing. And that's why I like majority of us in here is that we get it. We get it. It's like we watch Myles Garrett. We've seen what he does to us. He's really good, man. He just is. He's really good. So what's going on, you guys? I appreciate everybody being in here and getting up with us this morning. Thank you guys for showing up, Mr. Mark Malone, Topaz. So it is what it is. I like the list. I like the list. I have no beef with TJ, but here's the thing that I will say. You know, we're talking about 40 million, and we're going to talk about this in the podcast tomorrow. Is that TJ needs to stay at this level for the next 2 years or next 3 years, excuse me, not 2 years, the next 3 years. Because if you're talking about paying somebody $40 million a year, then, and it's not about me saying, oh, TJ doesn't deserve that. That has nothing to do with it. It's about the Pittsburgh Steelers locking up those resources for somebody that where the production isn't going to be there. And that was my whole thing with Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's not that Minkah couldn't play anymore, but Minkah wasn't being asked and wasn't doing the things that an $18.5 million football player should be doing. If you're going to pay TJ Watt $41, $42 million, whatever it is, then for the next 3 years, he needs to have 15 sacks or more every single year. For the next 3 years, he needs to stay as the number 2 edge rusher. He needs to cause havoc. We can't have, in 2025, he was great. He had 18 sacks. But in 2026, he had 8. No. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Not for a guy that's making, and I understand that the Steelers have to help him. I understand that the schemes and those type of things have to be different, so teams can't just double team him, triple team him, constantly chip him. I'm the first person to say it. The scheme's got to help him. TJ's also got to be willing to move around a little bit. We talk about Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett plays up and down that defensive line. Max Crosby, up and down that defensive line. Those guys are versatile. They just go, okay, I'm going to line up here. I'm going to line up there. You know, somebody who even did, Chris Jones from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he's an interior lineman, but how many times have you watched Chris Jones? Chris Jones will line up on a right tackle and just say, you know what? I can beat him on this play. It's me and him one-on-one. I'm going to line up out here. I'm just going to line up and I'm going to beat him. You know? So everything has to come into play, but it can't be where the fall off paying somebody that kind of money. And I think that's part of the reason that the Steelers are having some issues right now. And while they're not coming to grips on a contract, which they will, but it's like, look, man, we're willing to give you this money, but the production, and getting hurt, and not showing up at the end of the year. I'm not saying that the beginning doesn't matter. I would never tell anybody that the beginning of the season doesn't matter. But what I would tell you is that near the end of the year, we can't have you just disappear. And that's the difference. It's like, do all the things that you do at the beginning of the year, but we need you for all 17 games. And I understand he got hurt at the end of last year. He had a hip flexor that was, if you've never had a hip flexor, it is a problem. If you've never had a strained hip flexor, I mean, you can walk, but it feels like somebody's sticking a knife and just grinding it into your hip flexor with every step. It hurts. He had a thumb injury, which I'm still not convinced that his thumb wasn't broken. Still not convinced of that. But it is what it is. And we know he had the ankle injury. So he was beat up. But, okay. I mean, nobody wants anybody to get hurt. Nobody's predicting anybody gets hurt, but nobody blames anybody for getting hurt. But availability, man. Availability. It's got to be there. So Topaz is done with TJ Watt. He says trade Watt for our QB. Rather walk away a year early than a year late. They're not going to trade TJ. Well, first of all, what quarterback are you wanting to trade him for? Or are you just saying trade him for another first-round pick? Okay. But they're not going to trade TJ Watt. They're not. And especially if you've done all these moves and you're saying, okay, we're going all in for this season. You can't make these moves saying you're going all in and then trade your best football player. That doesn't make any sense. That literally doesn't make any sense. Now, You could say we're building for the future. Well, then why did we bring in a 41-year-old quarterback? If it's play for the future, just play Mason Rudolph. That's not what they did. You can say that's what we should have done, but the Steelers didn't do that. And I know I get on you guys a lot about living in reality. Well, it's because it's reality. We can't talk about what they should have done, or we can talk about it, but it's meaningless. Let's just talk about what they did do. And what they did do is they brought in an Aaron Rodgers. They brought in a Jalen Ramsey. They brought in a Darius Slay and a Jonnu Smith. They brought in these guys. So if you're doing that, you plan and I talked about it the other day. It's the number one that the Steelers are playing with a ton of desperation. And I don't mind desperation. There's some people out there that, oh, well, you're desperate. Yeah, we're desperate to win a playoff game. There's nothing wrong with that. Do everything that you can to do it, because that's what we're asking for. We're asking to win a playoff game. Well, if we're asking to do that and they're doing these things out of desperation, you can't be mad that they make these moves to try to appease what you're asking for, but then they don't do it the way you like. Well, come on, people. We can't be those hypocritical fans. We can't. So let's see. Torsha says $40 million is only about 15% of next year's cap. He makes 12% of this year's cap. I get 40s a lot, but it's only technically 3% more of next year's cap. I get why we shouldn't pay him, but it wouldn't kill us. No, Torsha, you're 100% right. You know how I feel about that. I've said it a million times. Don't count the dollars, count the percentage to the cap. If it's 30% of the cap, that's a conversation. That's like absolutely hell no, we won't go. But it wouldn't be that. Not to mention, the cap is going to go up. When has the cap gone down outside of COVID? And even then, it didn't go down. It just stayed the same. So the cap is going to go up. It's going to go up, people. So that percentage will get less and less as the cap number continues to rise. So it is what it is. They're going to pay him. I understand all the reasons. I'm with you. I understand the reasons not. But I think the Steelers are just trying to figure out right now is it worth it? Is he going to have this production 3 years from now? Because, and I said it the other day, and I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it. If the production in 3 years is he's going to be getting us 15 sacks a year, you give him the money. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But if you don't think in 3 years that if he's a single-digit sack guy, you can't pay a guy $40 million that's a single-digit sack guy. You just can't do that. You can't do that. And so that's maybe where the dilemma for the Steelers are coming into play. That's the dilemma. So let's see what else you guys had to say. If anything, they'll franchise him next season. He'll either plays or just said, no. They're going to pay him. They're going to pay him. They're not going to franchise him. He's not going to play under the franchise tag. So it would be crazy. Yinzer Joe. What's going on, Mr. Yinzer Joe? He says, I question if the Steelers are seriously fielding trades for Watt. Bengals did this for Hendrickson, but wanted a first-round pick for him. Do these teams really want to trade them, or are they just fishing? I don't think the Steelers are trying to trade TJ Watt. I don't think, and they may field a call because somebody calls you. That don't mean they taking it seriously. You can't keep people from calling you. You don't have to call anybody else, but you can't stop somebody from picking up the phone and dialing your number and asking you, and you just say no. Or, hey, you want to give us 2 first-round picks? We'll be more than happy to do it. I don't think anybody's out there willing to do that. And I'll be the first person to say, while I still say the Steelers are all in for this season, and if you trade TJ Watt, it's a total just basically misconception on being all in for this season, getting rid of your best player. But if somebody's willing to give you 2 first-round picks, you have to take that. Well, I don't think anybody's going to do that. I don't think anybody's going to do that. And while, like Detroit gives you a first-round pick, it's in the 20s, while it's not as good as a first-round pick in the like number 5, it's still a first round pick that you can use to maneuver. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Hey, Felicia, how's it going, man? Appreciate you being in here. Tanya Jackson, how you doing? What's going on? So we appreciate y'all getting up with this morning. My man Wes Hackett says, B, do you think he'll have the type of production these next 3 years, 15-plus sacks each year? To be honest, I don't know. I really don't. I want to say that TJ is going to continue down the path of just continue. Because here's the thing, and I think we forget this because we got so frustrated on how the season ended last year. But if you remember, before TJ, sprained his ankle, wasn't he going to win Defensive Player of the Year? I mean, just keep that in mind. Before he sprained his ankle last year, he was the runaway favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. There wasn't anybody even close to him as far. I think, now granted, I don't always look at the betting. I know people love the betting lines, and I don't pay that much attention to them because part of it because I'm not really a betting man. But having said that, I think he was like minus 250 at the time. The next closest person was plus 900. And it was Patrick Surtain, who actually ended up winning the award. That's how much of a favorite he was to win Defensive Player of the Year before he got hurt. So it's not like he just sucked all year. He just disappeared down the stretch. And again, he was banged up. But I just can't give passes for that. You're hurt. I understand you're not your best, but you can't give me your worst. That's my philosophy. So we'll see. We'll see. My man John says, I truly believe that Watt is good, but for the next 3 to 4 years is a huge issue. Plus, in the playoffs, he has not been productive or not been there due to injuries. That's just true statements. People defend TJ Watt, and I understand defending him because we love him. He's a Steeler. We love him. But at the same time, he's either not been there in the playoffs or he hadn't done anything. Like, people talk about, remember that Chiefs game? He picked up the fumble and ran it in for a touchdown, and the Steelers got the early lead. Well, first of all, he didn't cause the fumble. He picked it up. I mean, being in the right place at the right time, that's a knack. So you can't fault him for that. But did you even hear his name the rest of the game? You didn't. You didn't. So, and you can say, well, the Chiefs took him out of it. They schemed. Well, okay. Teams do that in the playoffs. You still got to find a way. You still have to find a way. And for $40 million, now your team has to help you, but you got to find a way. Got to find a way. So, but we'll see. We'll see. It's tough. Torsia, that's a good point. Maybe for 2 years, but 3 years, who knows? Yeah. Who knows? And Lindsay brings up a good point. Which player has shown up in the playoffs? Well, every single player for the Steelers hasn't played bad. But you're right. I mean, there's nobody that you say, man, he played good today. No, especially last year. Like, was there anybody that played good in that game? I mean, the offense didn't even show up for 2.5 quarters at all. Like, nobody. So, and the defense was just beat to hell, and couldn't stop anybody. The year before in Buffalo, I think Mason Rudolph played pretty good. I mean, the offense wasn't horrible the year before against Buffalo. It wasn't good, but it wasn't horrible. The defense just couldn't slow the Bills down. So, Yundra Joe says, do you think if Watt signs and he plays, he moves around the line like Garrett? I feel like this increases his chances of injury trying to bull through guards and tackles. No, not necessarily. I go, because moving around doesn't mean you just have to rush against a guard. It doesn't mean that, He's always going to go through tackles because that's what he does. But just because you line up over a guard doesn't mean, okay, I'm lined up over the guard, I'm just going to rush him. Nope, doesn't mean that. You can twist, you can stunt, you can slant. There's lots of different things that you can do. You can twist. They just have to scheme better with him. They just have to scheme better. So, That's the difference. If they do that, then things will be better. You just got to scheme them up a little bit. You know, um, you got to scheme them up and create more opportunities for your best football player. We're asking us to do that on offense. You got to ask the defense to do the exact same thing. So let's move on, people. Let's move on. So the Malibu crew it seems like they love Aaron Rodgers. They love what they are getting out of Aaron Rodgers, this Malibu crew. Calvin Austin um, loves what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table. One of his quotes he says is his mindset is, we're going to do this because I know what the defense is going to do, and they don't want to do this. You know, it's going to be special. Sometimes you can be given too much as far as a quarterback or giving a quarterback too much. And he's like, no, let's just go play football. And that mindset, I think, is a welcome thing because that's basically telling the wide receivers, look, man, here's the play. Go do it. Go do your job. And if you are open, I am going to throw you the football, which is what all of us have all been saying all along about Aaron Rodgers, is he's going to throw to whoever's open, wherever you're open. His mind is going to take, okay, here's the reads. This is what I know what the defenses are going to do. If you're where you're supposed to be and you're open, I will throw you the football. And that brings you to the next quote is, get open on time with my feet and cadence, which is basically because, again, for any of you members that are all pro level or more, and you are signed up to watch the all 22 on the Facebook page, make sure if you are, or if you're not, please sign up because you'll like it. There are so many times that last year our quarterbacks dropped back, ready to throw the football, and the wide receivers either they're not looking yet because they're not into their route, into their breaks, or they've already done them and the quarterback isn't ready to throw the ball yet. There's so many times that they are just off schedule with each other. And it's not like, oh, well, the offensive line. No, I'm not talking about being pressured. I'm just talking about, hey, I drop back. I'm ready to throw the ball, and wide receivers are still running routes. I'm like, wow. It's incredible to see. Now, some of that anticipation by quarterbacks is like, you know where the guy's going. Throw the ball with a little bit of anticipation. But other times, especially with Justin Fields just – look, I don't need to talk about it much. We've talked about it ad nauseum. He just used to wait for guys to get open and see them and then throw the ball. Like, he didn't have any anticipation, didn't trust himself, especially over the middle. But it is what it is. But Aaron Rodgers is saying, nope, you do your thing. I go, if you do your thing and you're open, I will throw you the ball. I will throw you the ball. Make sure you're on time. And go play football. I know what the defenses are doing. Leave that. And he's basically saying, leave that to me. Leave it to me to figure out what the defense is doing and where they're going. I'll figure that out. You just run your route. Well, does it get easier than that as a wide receiver? I mean, that's all I'm saying. It's like, does it get easier than a quarterback saying, don't worry about the defense. I got them figured out. You just do your job. You just do your job. So, a Topaz, I know you're the negative guy that comes in the chat all the time, but if Rodgers only has 10 yards of arm left, why aren't you out there throwing the ball with him, my man? You might as well go out there if all he can do is throw the ball 10 yards. We all should go out there. I can throw a ball 10 yards. I can read a defense too. We should all be out there. Come on, man. I get it. It's cool to be the internet negative guy. I get it. That's trendy. We just don't let that fly a lot. I mean, we can disagree, but to be ridiculously negative is just that. I'll just put it out there. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. So it is what it is. John says that I think Rodgers does something we haven't had in a while. He throws receivers open. Exactly. Exactly. He throws guys. It's with anticipation. It's with anticipation. So that's the whole thing. It throws with anticipation. So, and that's what all good quarterbacks do. You can't just wait for a guy to be open and then throw the football. It doesn't work that way in the National Football League, people. It never has. Guys are too fast. The windows close too quickly. You can't just stand there and say, okay, he's open. Now I'm going to throw it. By the time you do that, there's a defender there. You have to anticipate. That's all. You have to anticipate. So, and that's how people do it. What leads to more picks as well? Throwing with anticipation leads to more picks? I mean, why would that lead to more picks? I don't know. I never heard that before. I've never heard that throwing with anticipation leads to picks. I've never heard that. But just leave it to them. Just run your route. And again, that makes it easy. Let me do my defense. So let me control the defense. And I'll figure that part out. You just run where you need to be. Fields could run too. That's the difference. Okay. That's okay. Lord have mercy. Mm-mm-mm. And that's exactly Mark Malone. He's telling you, hey, just do your thing. If you're open, I'll get you the football. That's it. Steelers haven't had a quarterback like that since 2018, Ben Roethlisberger. 2019, Big Ben got hurt. 2020 was COVID. 2021, Ben was finished. He was basically finished in 2022. So, in 2020 and 2021, Ben wasn't the same guy. We all knew that. He was not the same guy. So, it is what it is. We haven't had that type of quarterback in a while, but we'll see. We'll see if it works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So, screw it. DK down there somewhere. Yeah. So, do I think Rodgers is washed? No. It's weird that people say Rodgers is washed, but I guess I'll just ask this question. If Russell Wilson would have thrown for 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions last year, would anybody be saying that Russell Wilson is washed? Or better yet, any quarterback. If any quarterback threw for 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, would you be saying that he's washed? I don't think you would. So I don't think you would. Nobody would be saying that. Nobody would be saying that. And that's the difference. Only people that either don't know football, which that's a lot, or people that are just stuck on negative or stuck on stupid say stuff like that. And I mean, that's it. That's it. So that's the difference. That is the difference. So Yinger said Rodgers threw a pass last season, 61.4 yards, the longest pass completion from a Jets QB since Next Gen Stats. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. So, yeah, for $19 million, I'm just saying, it's like if any quarterback is doing that, and again, they didn't win very many games last year in New York. They didn't win that many games. But I always say, just like with the Steelers, you can't just pin everything on one person. For instance, think the Jets franchise is horrendous. Just horribly run from top to bottom. Horribly run. That's number one. Dysfunction everywhere. Their offensive line was decent, but they couldn't run the ball, which is wild. Rodgers was hurt the first half of the year, coming back from injury. He didn't play great the first half of the year. He didn't. Played pretty good the second half of the year. And anybody with eyes would tell you that. So once he got his feet back underneath him. It takes a minute to come back from an Achilles injury, regardless of what he was saying about how he was healed and all that stuff. It's no. Like I said, if he can play, if he gives us what he gave them last year, I'll take it. So that's the difference. That is the difference. Yinzer says, I'm just saying Rodgers can still go deep with the football. The line just needs to step up and protect him. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, hey, Brenda, how you doing? Brenda said, if you paid Rodgers $75 million for those stats, would you say that's good? We're not paying him $75 million, so what difference does it make? I mean, did somebody pay him $75 million last year? Because I don't think anybody did. And the Steelers aren't paying him that. So what difference does it make? I'm lost there, Brenda, on why that's an issue. Or are you saying because the Jets paid him $75 million and then this is the stats? Well, he got hurt one year. I mean, you can't help that the man got hurt. Or are we blaming him for being hurt? Which you can't blame people for getting hurt, people. You just can't do that. You can be disappointed. You can be mad. You can not want it to happen, but you can't blame them for getting hurt. You think he wanted to tear his Achilles? Of course not. Of course not. You know, just like TJ Watt. You think TJ Watt wanted to be beat to hell last year? No. So I don't think so. But he was. But we don't blame him. We don't blame him. But I like what Calvin Austin is saying. I like the mindset. I like everybody going out there to work out. They love DK Metcalf and his work ethic and how he's stepping up to be a leader in that room. So, B, don't drink too much milk on your vacation. I can tell you this for a 100% fact, Robert. I will not drink one glass of milk on vacation. Not one. The only milk that I'll have is in some sort of alcoholic drink, whether it's a White Russian or a pina colada or something. I will not be drinking a glass of milk. I can assure you of that. Not one. Not one. So, Troy says Rodgers has the opportunity to pass Ben for 8th with 4,000 yards in a season. He's going to take us to the big game with that kind of production. I'm just saying, if he gives us the production that he gave us last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in good hands at quarterback. Is it the best in the league? Didn't say that. But was Jalen Hurts the best quarterback in the league last year? No. It's not always about being the best in the league, just being good. Just being good. So, Vegas says sometimes you can blame players for getting hurt like Gus Frerotte. Okay, that was just stupidity. Okay? Giving yourself a concussion is something different, my man. I get it. You know what? You're right. I apologize. I apologize. Giving yourself a concussion would classify as you can blame a player, for that. But I don't think anybody tears their own Achilles. I don't think anybody tears their own ACL, or separates their own shoulder. I don't think those things. But you're right, Vegas. You're right. I remember that. I know y'all remember. Remember he headbutted? What was it? Basically the padding in the end zone, and he turned around and his eyes were like this. I remember I was like, holy mackerel, what the hell happened? Woo! I remember. So, Lindsay says they're building team morale. They absolutely are. So, they absolutely are. Ben Skoranek, Torsha says, hope Skoranek can find a good connection with Rodgers, kind of like Lazard. The only difference is Skoranek's not going to play as much as Lazard plays. That's the difference. I get what you're saying, but Skoranek's not going to get on the field, not near as much. At least I don't think. Unless somebody gets hurt, Skoranek's not getting on the field as much as Lazard is. That's not going to happen. Again, unless something I don't know happens. I don't know. So that would be the difference. That would be the difference. CID. So That wall had it coming. You've been talking about Farad. You're right. You're right. How's Big G doing? Well, better. Big G is doing better. I'm going to talk to him later today. So Big G is doing better, just to keep you guys updated. Again, it's not my story to tell on what happened, but Big G is doing better. I do want to report that. And that's not just me saying, well, I hope. And no. I heard from him and his wife. He is doing better. So that's good there. So that is good there. Dopaz says, asking Rodgers for average QB play is a recipe for the same ending. Lamar or Mahomes or Allen will drop 50. What does them scoring 50 points have to do with Aaron Rodgers? And you know what? I know what I have to do with Topaz. You just got to ignore him. Some people just stuck on stupidity, stuck on negativity. I'm done with it. So appreciate you being in here, though. Thank you. Not his fault, but who asked the Cards kicker that tore his knee up celebrating? Here's the thing about that. I played college with his brother. I've got Martin Grammatica's number in my phone right now. We went to school together at Kansas State. His brother, Bill, you're right. There's another one. Bill Grammatica blew his knee out and basically ended his career by celebrating, came down, blew his knee out. That was the end of that. So, yeah, I remember Bill Grammatica. That sucked. So, that sucked. Vaughn says Skoranek is more of a special teams guy and ever so often quick. Yeah, that's what Skoranek is. Skoranek's a special teams player. You can put him in when we're in 13 personnel. If we were like, we are definitely running the football, put him in as the lone wide receiver to block on the end line because he's big and he can block. But that's what Skoranek is. I wouldn't feel like Skoranek's out there a lot. If he has 10 catches this year, that's probably 7 more than I think that he would. So, which would be good. So, the good news, yeah, no problem, Brenda. Absolutely. So, Big G is doing a lot better. We appreciate it. We appreciate you asking about him too. So, let's move on here, people. 3 people there's 3 cut possibilities for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3 guys that I think have I hate to say a chance to be cut, but are going to be cut. Let me make I apologize. There. But the first one is DeMarvin Leal. DeMarvin Leal, look, it just hasn't worked out. First of all, when they drafted him, he was a tweener between a defensive end and an outside linebacker. So I just don't think he was a fit from day one with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wasn't big enough to be a 3-4 defensive end, and he wasn't athletic enough to be an outside linebacker. They tried to move him to outside linebacker last year, and maybe it was working. I don't know, but he got hurt. He hurt his neck. His season was cut short. He didn't play much. So it's I don't know. I don't see him being on the roster, on the 53-man roster. He's got 33 tackles in 28 career games, only 1 sack. Like I said, he's 3rd on the depth chart. They moved him back to defensive end, so who knows how all that's going to work out. But I don't think is – I don't know, man. I want – again, I don't hope anybody gets cut because I'm not that guy. At the same time, I want my football team to be the best team that it can be. And reality is everybody can't make the team. So it's not that we're rooting for guys to get cut. We just talk about it in reality. Just like you guys, you talk about it in reality. You guys aren't rooting for guys to get cut. It's just, it is what it is. So I get you. Brenda says, when are they going to start cutting? Once preseason games start. You know, there might be a guy here or there that gets let go or something like that. But once the preseason starts, that's when they'll start letting guys go. So it'll be around that time. So, But yeah, I think Leal is going to be somebody that unfortunately gets cut. The next person that I think, and you guys already mentioned it, Cordero Patterson. Look, I know why he's on the roster now because there's a lot of people are like, why the hell is he still on the roster? It's $2.5 million. And I'm like, first off, they didn't cut him before because it was going to be $2.5 million that they were going to save no matter when they cut him. So you don't cut him now because, again, you got to get through the preseason. You got to get through camp. You don't cut a guy early because if running backs go down, you need them. Flat out. You're going to need them. So, but when the final 53 comes out, barring injury, I think Cordero Patterson's going to go. I don't think there's any reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to keep him on the roster because he's not the number one running back. That's Jaylen Warren. He's not the 2 guy. That's Caleb Johnson. He's not the 3 guy. That's Kenneth Gainwell. And I think those guys are going to get all the carries. Well, where does Patterson fit in? Well, you say, well, what about return guy? You're going to pay that return guy $2.5 million? When's the last time he's been really good at it? That's the difference. So Eric Banks just became a member. We appreciate you, Eric. Thank you very much for supporting the channel, my man. We appreciate you. So, and Vegas, you're right. Patterson had 3 good runs against Indy, hurt his ankle on the 3rd, and that was it. So that is the difference. So that's the difference. And we'll see. Patterson needs to be gone too. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're not going to cut him now, and you don't need to cut him now. Like there's no benefit of cutting Cordero Patterson today. There's literally no benefit. Whether you cut him today or you cut him at the very last cut, you're going to save the same amount of money on the salary cap. So you might as well wait until camp is over before you make any of those decisions. Again, get through training camp, get through the preseason. Everybody comes through healthy. Okay, then you make your move. But if somebody gets hurt, then Cordero Patterson needs to be on the team. I mean, he can help. He can help. If and only if, though, somebody gets hurt. Because if not, he's got to go. He's got to go. But the things that he does, other guys can do. Like Kenneth Gainwell can do what he does. He can do exactly what he does. So there's no reason to have Patterson and again, to be paying him that kind of money. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So, moving forward, the next one, and this one might be controversial, Connor Heyward. And I know that we look at him and we're just like, he's on the team because of his brother. Look, Connor Heyward is the definition of a tweener. Like, they play him at fullback, which I've been screaming for the Steelers. You want to run the ball like you want to run the ball, then have a fullback on your football team, man. Don't put an H-back out there and have that guy be especially an H-back like Connor Heyward that's not good at blocking. Like Connor Hayward's not a good blocker. So you can't have your H-back leading your running back on, how many times we have those zone bend back plays. The line blocks this way, but then the fullback goes left. We bend it back off of that. It's a great scheme, but that guy's got to be able to block a defensive end, or he's got to be leading up and block a linebacker. Connor Hayward's terrible at that, man. Oh, Earl Scott, subscribe to the channel. Carl Scott, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you, man. So Heyward is just one of those things. It's just like, we just can't. I don't know. Again, you don't want people to get cut. I would just rather have a fullback than a tight end that can't block. That's just my personal preference. Just my personal preference. And I know on a football team, a lot of teams keep either 4 tight ends or they have a fullback. I think the Steelers can just have a fullback. I really do. Just have a fullback, man, and go from there. Have a fullback and go from there. That would be what I think they should do. But again, versus like I mentioned, now he can do some things in the passing game. He can catch the football. I'm not saying that he's a waste or anything like that. I'm just saying for what the Pittsburgh Steelers do on offense when they go to 3 tight ends. I mean, he's not a lead blocker. He's not a great blocker. He can do some things out on the edge. He can do that. But, we're not praising Pat Freiermuth for his blocking. Connor Hayward's not as good a blocker as Pat Freiermuth. So there's that. That's all I'm saying is, that would be my preference. CID says, I agree. Hayward has had many opportunities to carve his spot. He's never really gotten it done. No. And like you said, he's had opportunities. He's had his opportunities. And maybe they're trying to appease Cam Hayward. I wouldn't be trying to appease him anymore. What's Cam going to quit? I mean, 36 years old, making $19.5 million. You're going to quit because they cut your brother who doesn't really have a spot? Sorry, Cam. You could be mad at us later, but he can't be on our football team. We're trying to do some things here, and he just doesn't fit what we're trying to do right now. And here's the thing. If he's good enough, another team will pick him up. But he just doesn't have to be with us. So Torsia says with Muth and Smith, we might as well play Washington at fullback tight end instead of Hayward. Only thing Hayward is good at is special teams. And he is good at special teams. But you can't play Darnell Washington at fullback because he's too tall. He's too tall. You never heard of a 6'7", 6'8" fullback before. He's too tall. Doesn't have the hip or knee bend to play fullback. I get what your point, though. But, yeah, you can't do that. But I get it. Lindsay said, why is Cam Sutton still on the team? Will he get – Cam Sutton's not on the Steelers. Yeah, Cam Sutton is not on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thank God. Whew. Whew. So, yeah, he's not on the Steelers. Freddie, what's going on, Freddie? He said, put a dedicated fullback in front of Caleb Johnson and pound the rock. And that's been my thing. That has been my thing. Just get a fullback. Get a damn fullback. Again, you want to be a running team. It's not always about fooling people. I get that's what you want to do with personnel groups. I get that. But sometimes it's like, you know what? We're coming out in this personnel. You don't know where we're going to run it. You don't know how we're going to run it. You don't know exactly what we're going to do. But we want to get our best blockers out there. Get yourself a fullback. That's my thing. Get yourself a fullback. So, they said Caleb's Iowa highlights had me hyped up to get him. He's more dynamic than Harris. Yeah, he's more dynamic than Najee Harris. So, you're exactly right, Robert. The best part of Connor's game is on special teams. So, didn't we use Derek Watt for a fullback? Derek Watt was on the team, but he didn't play very much. Again, it was almost like the Steelers are appeasing their star players by putting their brothers on the team. Like Derek Watt was on the team, but he was a special teams guy. He didn't do much as far as a fullback. Same thing with Connor Hayward, special teams guy. He's not doing much, for us. So it's weird. Yinzer Joe says Steelers can't seem to find a good fullback. They did try to get the 49ers back, but he decided to stay in San. I mean, I thought Coletto last year was going to make the football team, and he didn't. I thought he was fine in preseason, but the Steelers just cut him. They put him on the practice squad and never used him. I don't know. I feel like if you want a fullback, you could find one. I know they're a dying breed, but if you want a fullback, I feel like you could get one. So, CID says, Cam is a pro. He's appeased by his big fat bag. I mean, man, you're probably right. So, but that's the difference. That is the difference. So, having Darnell Washington be fun to see him at fullback. I mean, look, a 6'8" guy running downhill, in just an I formation and have Darnell. First of all, you're not going to be able to see the running back behind him. Okay, that's number one. You're not going to be able to find him. But having him running downhill, if he had the knee and the hip bend to play fullback, it would be awesome. But he's just too tall, man. He's just too tall. So Freddie said, didn't Le'Veon have Rosie Nixon and Tyler Steeler tenure? I think he did. But I mean, fullback's necessary, man. Fullbacks, if you're trying to run the football as much as you are, I think they're necessary. So I always like fullback. So that's the difference. That is the difference. Mark Malone, they do have a rookie fullback out of, I can't remember where. I don't know anything about him. They do. Let's hope he gets a chance. I'm just in on fullback. That's all. So those are the three guys that I think have an opportunity to be cut. DeMarvin Leal, Cordero Patterson, and Connor Hayward. Again, nobody's rooting for any of that to happen, but those are three guys. Now, there's others. I'm not saying there's no others out there, but those are the three guys that, as of right now, I would put my finger on and say, okay, these are three guys that would possibly, or more than likely, will not be part of the 53-man roster once the season gets underway for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I appreciate y'all, man. That's basically what I got. Look, I'll be out next week. We'll do some stuff. I'm going on vacation with the missus, so she's dragging me away. I didn't want to go, but she's dragging me away. So I'll be gone out of town next week, but I'll still be doing stuff. I mean, Steeler news doesn't stop. Steelers Almighty doesn't stop. So I'll be doing some stuff. So I appreciate you. Thank you guys. Just hang with me. We're not going away if it's not, up to par or whatever the case may be. I'm not going to be here in my home studio, but that doesn't mean we won't be doing stuff, man. So just bear with us. Either way, appreciate you all being in here. Remember, if you're not a member, go sign up. If you were a member previously, remember, we made some changes to memberships. We lowered all the prices. When you do that, YouTube kicks everybody out. So come back, sign up again, and you may think about jumping up a tier or two because the prices are lower. So you're not going to be out any more money, and you get more access. You get more things by being a higher tiered member. And remember, the All 22 is for all pro level members, tier 4 or higher. So I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you again for all the support that you guys have given to this channel. Big G is doing better. I just want to make sure, doing better. Again, I'm not going to tell you guys exactly what it is. That'll be his story to tell, and we'll get to that when the time is right. But he is doing better. So, and again, that's not just me, just wishing and hoping. No, I literally spoke to him and his wife. So good things about Big G. He'll be back as soon as he can be back. I appreciate you guys, man. Podcast will be out tomorrow, so make sure you guys tune in. It'll be 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Until then, I will talk to you guys later. Love you, and aloha.